Hi, in this video I'm going to go over what's new in IBM Copy Services Manager 6.3.12. So IBM Copy Services Manager 6.3.12 is released in end of September of 2024. And you can see a list of 6 things I'm going to cover today for some key features that you're going to see in the new release. All right, so let's talk about the first one. The first one's off of a customer idea that came out. CSM stores RPO information for Global Mirror on DS8000 storage systems. So when we store this RPO info, you're able to both export to a CSV as well as view the details and things such as LSSUs. We have a nice, as you can see in the back there, it's a very customizable graphing chart that you can pull up that lets you, slide on the date range that you want and all this stuff. In 6.3.10, though, we implemented a multi-target global mirror session type, and we used to have not only the graph in the back, which is the customizable one, but some mini graphs that were showed 15 minutes or 24-hour views. They weren't customizable, but they were quick views that you could look at without having to pull up the bigger graph and chart. And because we had these new sessions had 2 global mirror legs that were actually active at the same time, there wasn't room in the global mirror info tab to contain them, and so we disabled that and pointed customers to the nicer new graph that's in the back. Well, after we did that in 6.3.10, we got some feedback that customers really like the mini graph still. The big graph is nice, but at a glance view, the mini graphs are very nice to have. They can just look at it and make sure that the current RPO is within the range that they expected. So in 6.3.12, we listened to that feedback and we brought those mini graphs back. Now, in order to get them to fit, there is a new tab, and that new tab is next to the Global Mirror Info tab, but it's called RPO History. So if you click on that tab on any of the DS8000 Global Mirror sessions, you'll see that it has the 2 mini graphs if there's multiple global mirrors active, or a single mini graph if there's only 1 global mirror active. But it'll tell you what's what. Lets you from there launch the bigger graph, or even export to a CSV file if you need to get that data and manage it and review it yourself. So hopefully those customers that wanted this mini graph view, they like putting it back in. We've listened to your feedback, and there it is. All right, the next feature I want to talk about is security related. So a while back we added what we call a user administrator. So that user administrator is designed so that you can have a separation of duties, so that the people that you assign in the program to manage the users, add users, remove users, etc., aren't the same people that are actually managing the sessions. So this gives you a little more security, so that you can have an admin, a user admin group out there that say manages RACF, whereas your storage admin group, they just focus on the users. So the administrator role itself gives you access to both, but the user admin only allows you to do users, and so now you can set it up to be. When we created that user admin, you could set it up to have only user admins and only operators, and then no admins, so nobody has the overarching power to do everything. It's very much a separation of duties, like I said. Well, we had a customer that said, "Oh, that's great, that's what we want, except we want the operator to do a few more things that only administrator can do today." Those are things such as managing storage system connections, or setting up active standby connections, or modifying server properties. Those kinds of things we didn't allow operators to do, and we only allowed an administrator to do. Even a user administrator couldn't do it. And so if you had the separation of duties, a user admin could temporarily assign an admin, let them do the duties, and then remove them. But that becomes kind of a pain and kind of a process management thing when they're not really concerned about these particular actions. And so what we did is, in a previous release, we had added operator actions, so you can actually define individual actions that an individual operator can, or group or role could do. These are things like maybe the operator can only start sessions, they can't stop sessions, or they can create backups for safeguarded copy, but they can't ever expire backups. You could set that and customize an operator to that level. And so in 6.3.12, we added 2 new actions. One is the manage connection actions. So this allows you to create storage system connections. It allows you to create the ZOS host connection, IPZ connection, etc. So if there's a particular operator you want to be able to do that, you can set that up, select that action for them as an operator. And then the other one is manage server. And so the manage server is that, setting properties, allowing them to set up the active standby configuration, that kind of thing. And so hopefully this now allows you to skip that whole temporary admin situation and really have a separation of your users that way. All right, the next one I want to talk about is related to our email notifications. So hopefully you're aware the CSM supports both email and SNMP event notification. Well, when setting up an email, you put into a reply to address. And so if anybody had to reply to the actual alert, it would go to an individual. However, in addition to the reply to, every notification also has a from field. Well, that from field by default it is set to a string that we use to we build on the CSM server to indicate that the from is from an actual server, not from an actual person. So when you see the from on the notification, you would see that it's from server X, for example. And you could configure this. So this in previous releases, we don't really document it, but you can configure it with the 2 properties I show in the back there, that CSM server notification sender address. That way you could say it's always from this particular user or sender name. And so you can configure that. However, customers indicated that in their environment, that from field is checked. So they don't accept anything from an invalid email address. And that from field by default, like I said, is built by the host name, which is an invalid email address. And so they needed a way to define this. So you can define it with those properties. But what we did in 6.3.12 is we made it so that you could set a property, a server property, the CSM server.use.reply to for sender equal true. You can set that so that the reply to address that you specify in the actual CSM GUI is the same one that we'll set for the from value on the email notification itself. So that way you don't have to set it in 2 different places and different email address in case the email address changes or whatnot. You can set a single email address for the reply to, and that will be set for both the reply to and the from. All right, then the next one I want to talk about is related to HyperSwap, ZOS HyperSwap in particular. So on our 3-site and 4-site sessions, when you set up a HyperSwap on the Metro Mirror leg, and you're in a multi-target mode, so this only affects you when you're in multi-target. We had a property there that we don't fully advertise. It's out there, but it's a property that says that if we were to HyperSwap, go ahead and automatically start the global mirror at the remote site. So if we're going H1 H2 and H1 H3 as then that top picture, the DS8000 with multi-target technology knows that has a failover relationship between the H2 and H3 storage systems. And so by setting this property after the HyperSwap, CSM sees that a HyperSwap occurred and will automatically start that multi-target failover relationship and start H2 to H3 and get global mirror going. And the reason we have this property and allow you to do that is so that in the event that the HyperSwap occurs while you're not actively watching, maybe in the middle of the night or something, it will automatically kick in that global mirror at the remote between the 2 remote sites, so that you're protected even until you're able to figure out what happened that caused the HyperSwap in the first place. So this has been out there for a while, and in 6.3.12 we decided to just, for the better of customers, we decided to enable this by default. So now for all the 3-side and 4-side sessions, this is both multi-target MMGM as well as multi-target MMMM. We allow you, we automatically set it to restart after HyperSwap. Now, if you did a suspend and recover manually, it doesn't automatically restart. It's just in a HyperSwap command or event. So if that HyperSwap happens, it will automatically go to the bottom picture where the H1, H2 Metro Mirror relationships will stay failed over, but you will have Global Mirror from H2 to H3. And the pictures are for the 4-site session, but really you can imagine being the same for a 3-site configuration as well. So again, hopefully this helps improve the automation in the environment, the high availability in the environment to protect your data after a HyperSwap event. All right, the next one I want to talk about was related to basic user passwords. So this is another idea that came in from a customer. We've supported basic users from the get-go, as well as LDAP users, Active Directory, LDAP, and RACF users. Well, basic users are what they are called basic. We didn't have any rules to set against them. They were just there. If you wanted rules, we always told you, set up an LDAP server, put the rules on the LDAP server. So that part's still the same. LDAP will still manage your rules if you use LDAP users. But in 6.3.12, we did go ahead and add in the ability to put in a few set of rules for these basic users themselves. So now if you go to the administration panel, so it's the settings administration, at the very top, you'll see the dual control, the LDAP server, and then you'll see password security requirements. If you click that link, you'll now get the pop-up for the picture at the bottom, where you can set a number of things. The first thing you can set is expiration in days. So this hopefully is self-explanatory, but if it's set to 0 by default, meaning there is no expiration, but if you set that to a set of say 90 days, then every 3 months a user would have to go and reset their password. How does the password reset work? Well, when they go into log into the CSM through the GUI or CLI, we will check and see when was the last time they set their password, or when was this enabled. And if it's beyond that value, so its last time was greater than 90 days, in the example I just gave, then they will be prompted to type in the new password. So they'll be prompted right away to modify it. All right, the next one we added was the minimum length. So you can now, the next few, set the complexity of the password. So you can set it to say 8 or 10 or whatever you want for minimum length that meets your security requirements. And then you can set after that whether you can do a checkbox to say whether you require mixed case, so upper or lower and lowercase values, numbers, and or symbols. So you can choose any of that combination to cause basic users to have more complexity in their passwords itself. So hopefully this satisfies that particular request, and now you can set the requirements on basic users. All right, the last feature I want to talk about for 6.3.12 is an enhancement to our active standby support. So for those that were watching, in 6.3.11, we added a feature to automatically reconnect your active to your standby server when a disconnect occurs. So this allows them to resync automatically. You don't have to go in there and manually do it. It just does it automatically. This is an enhancement on top of that. So if in that case your active goes down, it's gone right now for good, you can't access it, and you have to do a takeover, that standby server is now an active server. So when the active comes back up today out there in the field, it'll try to reconnect, but it won't be able to on 6.3.11 because the other server is inactive, or it doesn't. You're earlier than 6.3.11 and it just sits as an active server. Well, now you're ended up in a state where you have two active servers. When you're in an active server mode, it's not only processing hardware events, but it's running scheduled tasks. So any scheduled tasks you have out there that are scheduled in some interval, both active servers will run those tasks. And so we saw that as an issue, and that's what we're covering in this 6.3.12 feature. Is as a picture shows, we disconnect, the takeover is issued on the standby, he becomes inactive, the active comes back up, and at that point he tries to reconnect, but he will see that the standby server has already issued a takeover. And when he does that, it will automatically put itself into a semi-standby mode. Now I say semi-standby because it's not a standby, we haven't resynced from the new active, which is the old standby, back to the original active. That active server is still in the same configuration state that he had when the disconnect occurred at the top. We just put it into a mode where he's no longer processing hardware events, and and especially not running scheduled tasks. So now, as long as you did that standby takeover, you will not see both active servers running scheduled tasks at the same time. The original active will essentially shut itself down and put itself in a mode until you make it a standby, or you can issue a takeover to that server itself and make it an active. But then be careful, because you do have two active servers, and you got to make one of them standby at that point. So hopefully this closes that final gap in that active standby support, in particular with those scheduled tasks running. So as I say at the end of all these that I do, put in your ideas. We listen to them, like that RPO event where we took something out, you didn't like it, put in a request to put it back in. We listen to that. So hopefully you like what you see in this new release, and please keep using CSM, keep bringing in the ideas. We love to see it, and thank you very much for your time.